Hi, my name is Chris Heptonstall, President of All Pro Greens. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to watch this online training. We're going to show you how to take our synthetic turf product and turn it into this. We're going to show you how to make a lot of money doing it, and we're going to show you how to work smarter instead of harder. Our goals for this online training are to educate and inform you about synthetic turf putting greens and synthetic lawn turf. We're going to show you how to estimate jobs and the profits that you can make from those jobs. Typically, you're looking at a profit of 60 to 65% using existing equipment and employees on jobs that will normally take one day to install. We're going to show you the techniques that our most successful contractors across the country are using to sell greens, and we're going to show you 5 brand new nationwide field tested marketing programs. Before we get started, there's several things I want to say. Basically what we're doing today is giving you a blueprint and a marketing plan of the strategies and tactics that our most successful contractors are using across the country to sell greens and how you can apply it to your local market. Also, you do not have to know about golf or know how to play golf to install this product. In fact, the base preparation for the putting green is identical to the base preparation for laying brick pavers. Also, you're not selling putting greens. Did everybody get that? You're not selling putting greens. What you're selling is a putting and chipping practice facility. You're selling something so much larger than just a synthetic green. Also, I want to tell you about the All Pro philosophy, and it's this. We're not successful till you're successful first. Meaning we're not successful till you have gone out and have sold the product and you're calling us to place an order. Anything that we can do to help you achieve that, we're going to do it. The game of golf has become more popular than ever, probably because it's more accessible to people of all age levels and income brackets. The 9/11 attack and the war in Iraq sparked a trend of people staying closer to home and doing more with their families. Many of these families are refinancing their mortgage and putting that newfound money back into their home and properties. For the last 6 months, every single week, LendingTree.com has been running a 30-minute nationwide commercial in which they show how a synthetic putting green qualifies as a home improvement loan. They could have chosen a brick paver patio, retaining wall, water feature, curbing, lighting. They could have chosen any number of products. However, they chose a synthetic green. Many of you are probably experiencing these refinancing trends, but are you taking full advantage of the opportunity at hand? Are you looking ahead to the future of your company, and what about your long-term strategies and planning? It really all comes down to how ambitious you are. About 70% of the greens that we sell go to contractors to install for their customers. How do they do it? How does a Michigan school teacher install 50 greens in one spring and summer, profit $150,000, and does it part-time? What about the contractor in Florida that's put in 30 greens in 7 months with an average profit margin of $4,000 per green? Then we have the contractor in California that's put in over 1,000 greens in 5 years. How do they do it? They do it through drive and ambition. Drive not just to survive, but drive to find a void in their local landscape market and fill it. Everyone here today has a golden opportunity to get into a business, to get into an industry that is very much in its infancy. Doing so now will help ensure your success, because I can guarantee you, if you don't, your competition will. And the single number one reason they will is because of the amount of money that they can make on the greens, but not only the greens, the landscaping around the greens. However, by getting involved early, you set yourself up as an established, professional synthetic green installer instead of the new kid on the block. As we're about to show you, the market is out there, and we want you to benefit and profit from it. The things that we're going to cover today are going to be, we're going to show you before and after photographs and show you how to estimate jobs. We're going to talk about the different types of turf in the industry and the golf industry itself. We're going to show you how to market the greens. We're going to show you how to sell the product. We're going to show you 5 brand new nationwide field-tested marketing programs that are very successful, and we're going to tell you why All Pro is the company you want to deal with. Before we get started, I want to show you some folks that have been through this training and what it's done for their business. Here we have a contractor in Atlanta that installed a $35,000 green around a $125,000 landscape. This is a $160,000 job. Ultimate Greens in Atlanta, Georgia sells an average of 2 greens a week with an average profit margin of $2,500 per green. Front Range Landscape in Westminster, Colorado sold 9 greens in 2 months to home builders. HTA Company in Lansing, Michigan sold 10 greens in 2 months by referrals. Creative Landscape in Walnut, Illinois did a home show at a mall, sold 1 green with landscaping for $125,000. Here we have County Landscape in Waterbury, Connecticut, did a 19th hole mixture and had over 40 people attend. And we're going to show you in a little bit how to do this program. Landscape Direct in Washington, Michigan sold 9 greens to 9 customers in 1 day through the Build a Green Day program. Here we have another company, Northern Pine Greenery in Minocqua, Wisconsin, sold 9 greens in 22 days from their display green. Tea Time Greens in Sparks, Nevada sold 15,000 square feet of lawn turf, profited $50,000, and expects to do $500,000 in sales this year. Here we have another contractor in Hartford, Connecticut, Imagineers, put on a 19th hole mixture and had over 75 people attend. All right, let's look at some before and after photographs and show you how to estimate jobs. Here we have the before photograph of just a plain Jane backyard. During when they're taking out the dirt. Then afterwards. Notice all the block work, the lighting, and the landscaping around the green. All that is extra. You charge extra for that. Okay, let's break it out. On this particular installation, we used 2 12 by 30 foot putting greens. That's 735 square feet. At your wholesale price of $2.85 a square foot is $2,094. 2 things here. You want to think in lengths of 5 feet when you're selling the product. We sell the product in 5 foot long increments. For instance, 12 by 20, 12 by 25, 12 by 30. Also, you want to make sure when you're calculating your square footage that you calculate the extra 3 inches. The width of our rolls are 12 feet 3 inches wide and not 12 feet. All right, we included a accessory kit in this job, and that's the cups, the flags. That was $50. This job called for 2 quarts of adhesive and seaming tape. At $15 a quart was $30, and then the freight charges on this job was $315. The total cost of the kit was $24.90. The other materials that we needed for this job was the sub base. We needed 10 tons of the crushed stone base. You want to make sure that the stone base is a 1/4 inch in size down to dust and powder, or 3/8 inch in size down to dust and powder. Also, your formula for the base material is for every 72 square feet, you need 1 ton of the crushed stone base, and that will give you a 4-inch compacted base. This job called for 10 tons at $20 a ton. That was $200. The coal slag infill that we used is, you need to make sure that it is a 30 to 60 grit or mesh size. If you can imagine a scale, like a 1220 is coarse, 2040 is medium, and 3060 is fine. The 3060 is the only product that will sweep properly into our turf. Make sure it's the 3060. This job required 40 100-pound bags at $7 per bag. That's $280. Your formula to use for this is for your square footage, take your square footage of the green times 5.5, and that's 5.5 pounds of infill per square foot on the green. This job called for a mechanical ride-on roller. The rental on that was $125. A good rule of thumb here is that on a 12 by 30, 12 by 40 foot green, you want to use a vibratory plate compactor. If the job is larger than that, we recommend the ride-on roller. The labor on this job, we figured 2 men for 2 days, 9-hour days at $16.50 per man hour, which was $600. So the additional material cost on this job was $12.05. The selling price for this job was $12 a square foot, which did include a small sand trap. So that was $88.20. The actual cost was $36.95. So the job profit was $51.24, or 60%. Let's look at one more before and after. Here's a photo of a green, or actually a pool that was actually being filled in for a green. Notice all the block work, the tile work, and the landscaping. Again, all that is extra. Let's break it out. We've got one 12 by 30 foot roll, 368 square feet, times your wholesale price of $285 a square foot, which is $1,048. The accessory kit is $50, and then the freight is $236. Something to remember here is that if you looked at the last breakout, the freight was $315 for 2 rolls. If you order multiple rolls, you will definitely save on the freight. The more square yardage, the less the freight charges will be. The total kit cost here was $1334. The base material that we needed for this job was 5 tons at $20 per ton, which was $100. The coal slag infill that we used, 20 100-pound bags at $7 per bag, which is $140. In this particular case, we did use the vibratory plate compactor. Rental on that was $60. And then labor, we figured 1 day, 9-hour days at $16.50 per man hour, which was $300. Our additional material cost was $600. The selling price on this job was $12 a square foot, or $4,600. Our actual cost was $1934, so our job profit was $26.65, or 60%. As you can see, there's more money in synthetic putting greens. You're looking at a profit margin of 60 to 65% using existing equipment and employees. A customer may spend $3,000 on a putting green and $5,000 to $10,000 on landscaping around the green. Here we have an example of a green where the customer spent $3,000 on the green and $70,000 on this water feature around the green. I know it's hard to tell by these photographs, but this water feature has 4 koi fish ponds, 3 falls, and 2 streams coming off of it. Here we have another customer that spent $10,000 on their green and $50,000 on the rock work, the block work, and the landscaping around the green. Synthetic greens are one of the fastest growing segments of the golf industry. They're directly tied to the lawn and landscape industry. And what does the landscape industry have to say about synthetic greens? Landscape Management Magazine voted synthetic greens as the #1 profitable niche service idea of this year. Lawn and Landscape says that synthetic putting greens can be a lucrative add-on service for landscape contractors. Turf Magazine calls it a viable business booster. Selling greens is a way to sustain income and keep crews busy year-round. And Entrepreneur Magazine voted synthetic greens as one of their top home-based businesses to own. Let's look at our synthetic lawn turf. There are sporadic droughts throughout the United States, and it seems like conservation efforts are becoming more of a fact of life than just a temporary adjustment. We have contractors that are selling 1 and 2 synthetic lawns per week. Our 1 3/4 synthetic hybrid lawn turf is a great alternative because unlike gravel or concrete surfaces, it can be played on like real grass. It's functional, attractive, and helps reduce water. Water districts, garden centers, home builders, architects, and landscape contractors are responding by increasing awareness about artificial lawns, which are beautiful as well as water-wise. Let's look at some before and after photos and show how to estimate these jobs. Here we have a before photograph and after. All right, let's break it out. On this particular job, we had 2 12 by 55 foot rolls of lawn turf, which equaled 1,348 square feet at your wholesale price of $3.49 a square foot. Came to $47.04. The freight on this was $4.45, so the total kit cost was $51.50. The base material needed for this was 19 tons, and again, that will give you a 4-inch compacted base. At $20 per ton was $380. The copper slag or coal slag infill, you need to fill this lawn turf up halfway, so your formula for this is take your square footage times 5.5, which is 5.5 pounds of infill per square foot. So this job required 74 100-pound bags, again using the 30-60 blend, grit, or mesh size. At $8 per bag was $5.92. This particular instance, they did use the mechanical ride-on roller, which was $120 for the day's rental. This job required 4 men and 3 days of labor at $1,500, so the additional material cost was $25.92. The selling price was at $9 a square foot, or $12,132. The actual cost was $77.42, so the job profit was $43.90, or 57%. Not as much profit as it was on the putting greens, but not as much work either. You don't have to be as precise with your base material, and you only have to fill the turf halfway full. Let's look at one other installation. All right, let's break it out. We had 2 12 by 20 foot rolls, 490 square feet, at your wholesale price of $3.49 a square foot, which came to $17.10. The freight on this was $2.43, so the total kit cost was $19.53. Base material needed for this was 7 tons at $20 per ton, which was $140. The copper slag infill, 27 100-pound bags at $8 per bag, which came to $2.16. In this particular case, they did use the vibratory plate compactor, which was $60 for the rental. This job required 3 men for a day and a half labor at $16 per man hour, which came to $576. So additional material costs were $9.92. The selling price on this job was $9.50 a square foot, which was $46.55. The actual cost was $29.45, so the job profit was $17.10, or 58%. Again, not as much profit as on the putting greens, but not as much work either. If you've done any research into this business, you're going to find out that there are 2 types of greens. Polypropylene greens, which is what we manufacture, and then nylon greens. Depending on the product, polypropylene greens are an infilled or sand-filled product, and nylon greens are not. By examining the different types of turf and the infilling process, you're going to get a much better understanding about the characteristics of the greens and the longevity of the product. The mark of a true professional synthetic golf green means the product is sand-filled or infilled. And this is where an infill is swept into the fiber. A lot of companies use a silica sand or sandblasting sand. However, a sand, when it gets wet, will pack down and harden up the surface. We use a coal slag or copper slag infill. The advantage of this is that once it gets wet, it will not pack down and harden the surface. The infill gets in and around each fiber, causing that fiber to stick straight up or vertical, which means the fiber will not mat down over time. The infill provides cushion to the green. Whether you're standing on the green or chipping to the green, you're going to get a sponge cushion feel. The polypropylene fiber itself is a very natural looking green fiber that looks good aesthetically in a yard. A disadvantage to the polypropylene greens is that sweeping in the infill is the most labor-intensive part of the job up until now. There's been nothing you could do, there's no shortcuts you could take from sweeping the infill into the green, but we've changed that, and we'll share that a little bit later. Here we have an example of a polypropylene green that has actually rippled or bubbled for one of two reasons, either improper infill or either a defective backing. Not all polypropylene greens are created equal. You could buy a cheaper costing polypropylene green, which will equal a cheaper quality product, and I can guarantee you will show up in the performance of your customer's green. You may save 5 cents a square foot today on that product, but it may wind up costing you thousands of dollars in the long run. We get asked the question all the time, what separates an all-pro polypropylene green from other companies selling polypropylene greens? Well, I'll tell you, it's value. And what you've got to do is, if you lose a sale to another contractor because you were $500 or $1,000 more expensive than him, then you failed to create value. Value for yourself as a company and value for the product. What is the value of the product? Well, number one, we're the manufacturer. We control the quality of the product. Number two, we have the densest putting green turf in the industry, and it's that density of the turf that will hold the infill in place. A denier is a width of a fiber. Most companies run a wider 7600 denier fiber. We use a narrower 5700 denier fiber. And all that means is that we're able to pack about 20% more fiber per square yard into the product to make it a lusher and plusher product. We use a double primary backing with our product. Most companies use a single primary backing. We use a double. We then come back with a urethane secondary backing. Most companies use a cheaper latex. The best analogy I can give you with the backings is that, let's say you're going to paint a wooden deck. If you use a latex paint, the latex is going to stick to the outside of the wood. If you use a urethane stain, it's going to penetrate into the wood. And that's exactly what happens with our urethane secondary backing. It actually absorbs into the double primary backing to help grab, anchor, and secure that turf fiber in place. We then come back and we double shear our product to make sure the tip height is consistent across the entire putting green surface. Let's talk about nylon greens for a minute. The advantage of a nylon green is because there's no infill in that product, that labor portion of the job is reduced. However, that one advantage is far, far outweighed by many of the disadvantages and problems that you're going to have with a nylon green. Because there's no infill in that product, over time, in the heat, the cold, being stepped on, the fiber's going to mat down. And when it does, there's nothing you can do to bring that fiber back up. The companies that sell these greens claim that their fiber is heat set, that it has memory, that it's not going to mat down, but in their warranty information, they say in there specifically, matting not covered under warranty, which leaves you, the contractor, on the hook with the customer. Another problem with a nylon green is because there's no infill in that product, they've added a foam pad or rubber backing. The problem with the foam pad is, again, in the heat, the cold, being stepped on, that foam pad is going to compress. And when it compresses, it's not going to do it uniformly across the entire surface, so you're going to be stuck with a bumpy surface. Also, you have two types of foam pads. You have a closed cell foam pad and an open cell foam pad. If it's a closed cell foam pad, It means water will not penetrate it. So if you've got a low spot on your base, the water's going to collect there and cause a mold, a mildew, and an odor problem. If it's an open-celled foam pad, it's going to act like a sponge and again cause a mold, a mildew, and an odor problem. The nylon fiber itself is a darker green, hunter green color, and depending on the light of day, could even be blue-green in color, which does not look good aesthetically in a yard. Here we have an example of a nylon green that is actually moved off its base. And what happens here is that foam pad has to expand and contract with the weather. And because there's no weight of infill on that, that's exactly what's going to happen. You can never, ever put a nylon putting green with a foam pad back on a crushed stone base. It has to be glued down to a concrete surface. The problem with concrete is, one, it's more expensive, and then two, you cannot get the undulations and contours in the concrete as you can with the crushed stone base. The only reason I mention other companies' polypropylene greens and other companies' nylon greens is because we get calls from contractors every single week which have installed these products, and within a year they have to rip them out and replace them with our greens. Let me give you an extreme example. Had a contractor that installed a 24 by 30 foot nylon green for a customer. Charged the customer $10,000. So what started out as a $5,500 profit for that contractor turned into a break-even job because in 8 months the fiber started to mat down. There was nothing the contractor could do, so he had to go in, rip out the green, and replace it with our product. But that doesn't include all the headache, the hassles, the callbacks, everything that contractor had to put up with to make it right with the customer. Now think about the customer. Is that customer going to brag about the great product and service that he received from that contractor and send him a bunch of referrals? Nope. He's going to complain to everyone that he knows and wish he had never gotten involved in the project. Everyone here today works very hard for their money. And what we're trying to do through this online training is to educate and inform you as much as possible so you can go out and educate your customers, but at the same time, we want you to make good, wise, solid business decisions instead of costly mistakes. Here at AllPro, we don't want you to sell one installation, we want you to sell hundreds of installations. And anything that we can do to help you achieve that, we're going to do it. Let's talk about a show green. The only requirement we have for you to sell our product is to purchase a green, install it, and use it as your showpiece. That's it. Take, for instance, this green here. This contractor spent $895 on this 12 by 15 green. That's $895 on the 12 by 15 green, the accessory kit, which is the cups, the flags, and the freight delivered to his doorstep. Now, obviously, he spent more money on the block work and the landscaping and lighting around the green, but for his investment of $895, he has sold $90,000 in greens in 3 months. With an average profit margin of 60%, that is $54,000 that he has made on an $895 investment. You have to have a show green for several reasons. Number one, you have to have a showpiece. There's no way that a customer is going to spend thousands of dollars with you on this product without being able to see it, touch it, and test it. Also, you need to be comfortable with the installation process. You don't want to be fumbling around on the customer's lawn acting like you don't know what you're doing. Also, you need to be confident about the product. How are you going to be able to look a customer in the eye and tell them that the product's going to do exactly what you say it will if you don't have one installed yourself? One of the big problems that we have at AllPro is we have contractors that will get a hold of our pictorial magazine or get a hold of our brochure, and they'll go out and try to sell a customer on a green. Well, somewhere during that conversation, the customer asked to see a green. When the contractor says that he doesn't have one installed, he's lost all credibility with that customer. Now let's go back to the beginning where we said a customer may spend $3,000 on a green and $5,000 to $10,000 on landscaping around the green. These contractors are missing out on a $5,000 to $10,000 sale because they did not have a show green. If you don't want to put in a show green or don't have the money to put in a show green, there is an alternative. What you can do is approach one of your existing customers that play golf and just be honest with them. Say, look, I'm getting into this business and if you let me, I will put a green in for you at cost. By putting in a green at cost, you achieve several things. Number one, you have a show green. Number two, you have nothing out of pocket. Number three, you're comfortable and confident with the installation process. And number four, you have a customer which you can use as a referral. Let's talk about some of the promotions that we've got going on. We want to reward our contractors for their efforts. Our first promotion that we've got is we are taking our top 10 contractors in sales across the country and taking them to Atlanta Motor Speedway to race NASCARs around the track at 150 miles an hour. They're going to come to our facility, and then we're going to go to Atlanta. After we get done with that, we're going to go down to South Georgia for 2 days and hunt wild hogs. We're going to spend 2 days hunting hogs. We're going to spend the evenings talking about the business, brainstorming, and talking about the plans for the next year. Another promotion that we have for all contractors is that we are giving away a fully equipped Golfscapes trailer. This is how it works. For every $1,000 that you spend in product, you have one chance to win. So let's say you buy a $2,000 green or $2,000 worth of lawn turf, you then have two chances to win. Purchase 10,000 square feet during the course of the year and you will win a vibratory plate compactor for free. Purchase 25,000 square feet or more during the year and you will win a Golfscapes trailer. It's not going to be fully equipped, but it'll be the trailer with your name, your address, your phone number on it. It's all your contact information. Purchase 40,000 square feet during the course of the year and win a fully equipped Golfscapes trailer. Another promotion that we have is, which will help you to sell more greens, and this is more for your customer, is that we are giving away a fully equipped custom Golfscapes golf cart. The way this promotion works is for every 300 square feet of product that your customer purchases, they have one chance to win this golf cart. So let's say a customer buys 650 square feet of green or lawn turf, then they have two chances to win. Let's talk about the golf industry. The golf industry is a $50 billion a year industry, with $25 billion being spent on greens fees and golf equipment, and the other $25 billion being spent on golf travel. There are over 42 million Americans in this country that play golf, and whether they're 5 years old or 55 years old, their number one goal is to improve their game. You've got two markets that you're going to serve with this product. You have the residential and the commercial market. The residential market consists of folks that are members of public, semi-private, and private golf clubs. These are folks that are members of golf associations and play in golf leagues. They live in upscale neighborhoods and golf course communities. These folks like to entertain a lot, and they're middle to high income. The commercial side that you're going to be able to service consists of golf course superintendents. You've got driving range owners. You've got golf pros, resorts and hotels, apartment complexes, auto dealerships, car lots, office complexes. You've got shopping malls and condominiums, retirement facilities. You've got home builders. We sell a lot of greens to home builders, and we're going to show you how to do that in a little bit. You've got pool companies, landscape architects, tennis court companies, and schools and universities. 62% of a round of golf is composed of the short game, the putting and the chipping. However, most golfers spend their time at the driving range. The primary reason for this is convenience. It can be difficult to find a green that is well maintained or isn't crowded. It's also difficult to find the time. However, your company is going to be able to provide these folks with what? Not a putting green, but a 24/7 putting and chipping practice facility to enjoy in the comfort and privacy of their own backyard. Let's talk about how to market the greens. One of the first things you can do is approach a golf pro at a golf course. And when you approach them, just be honest with them. Say, look, I'm getting into this business, and if you refer people to me, I will give you 5% of what the job pays. This is a very good fit between you and the pro, because a pro cannot sell clubs and he can't sell shirts, or he'd be competing with the pro shop. It's also a good fit between you and the pro because a pro's job all day long is to take greens fees and talk to golfers, and many of the times those golfers are complaining about some aspect of their game. It's also a good fit between you and the pro because a pro's job is very much of a status symbol type job and not a very good paying job. So pros are very receptive to what you have to say. Let me tell you what not to do. We had a contractor that approached a pro and said, I'll give you 5% if I get jobs. The pro was happy with that. He was pleased to get 5%. He sent a lot of referrals to this contractor. The contractor never followed up with those leads. The pro got discouraged. He decided to start doing installations of greens himself. He soon realized that a green that he put in on a weekend, he was making more money than he was as a pro all month long. He's now quit his job as a golf pro and installs synthetic greens and lawns full-time, and he'll do over $500,000 in sales this year. Another thing that you can do is talk to a member of a country club or a golf club or an association. If you install a green for them, ask them for their members directory and cold call those folks using that customer as a reference. Something else you can do, and that's really important, is use the tools we provide you. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every year developing new marketing tools for you. We've got them, so use them. The first tool that you can use is the Pictorial Magazine. The Pictorial Magazine has 150 photos of installations. It has putting greens that are standalone, putting greens with sand traps, with water features, with brick paver patios, retaining walls, curbing, lighting, many different sizes and shapes of greens, many different landscapes around those greens. The next piece that we've got is the brochure, the putting green brochure. The brochure is really nice. You open it up, it shows diagrams on the inside of what a customer can do with different sizes of turf as far as shaping the greens. Very effective tool. We have Build a Green Day brochures. The Build a Green Day brochure tells a customer in a very easy to understand layman's terms what the Build a Green Day program is about. We have lawn turf brochures. Again, it explains why the customer should have a synthetic lawn and be water conscious. We have sales DVDs. The DVDs show the putting, the chipping. It talks about the All-Pro Advantage. It does not show any of the installation. Something else you can do is send out postcards. We recommend you sending out a postcard once a week for 5 weeks. And what this does is the postcard is a very good, non-intrusive way to let that customer know that you care about them and that they can have a green in their backyard. Something else you can do is develop your own portfolio. Take before, during, after photographs of each installation so that the customer can see the kind of quality work that you can offer. Something else you can do is talk to landscape architects. Just like a landscape contractor, an architect is always looking for something else to sell his customer. Approach the architect, show him the Pictorial Magazine. This would be a wealth of ideas for that architect. Ask him to incorporate greens or synthetic lawn into his projects. Once you get that relationship established with that architect and he's doing some jobs, then ask him if he's part of an association or a group. Most larger cities have this. They have an association or a larger group. And what you want to do here is try to schedule a meeting where you can go in and talk to these architects for 15 to 20 minutes. These architects are always looking for people to come in and talk to them and present new ideas to them. Let's say, for instance, if you sell a couple greens, 1 or 2 greens, to one landscape architect. Now you go to one of their meetings, which are either monthly, quarterly, or annually, and you're going to give a presentation. Now maybe you get 1 or 2 greens from 20 architects. If you're able to do that, now you're booked for the season. Very effective way. What we're trying to do here is help you to work smarter instead of harder. Another thing you can do is approach a home builder. We sell a lot of greens to home builders. Now, if you can get what I'm about to share with you into the mind of the home builder, you've got a great chance of selling a lot of greens. Here's how it works. You approach a home builder and say, look, I'd like to install a green at one of your show homes or demo homes. Say you charge them $10 a square foot. If it's a really big builder, you may want to install it for free. You install the green, you charge them $10 a square foot. That home builder is going to mark it up at least an additional $10 a square foot. So let's say, for instance, on a 12 by 30 foot green, that home builder has made $3,700 in an area of the backyard that he would not have made any additional monies. Get that idea into the mind of the home builder, and he will buy a lot of greens from you. Now, the homeowner, the person that's going to buy the house, they're going to finance that mortgage for 20, 25, or 30 years. So that $20 a square foot putting green is going to show up as just a few more dollars on their mortgage payment. Something else you can do is network with garden centers and nurseries. We had a contractor in Albuquerque, New Mexico that approached a garden center, and his first sale to that garden center was over 15,000 square feet of putting green product and lawn turf product. Another thing that you can do is send postcards to homeowner. We've got a contractor in Nevada that sent out postcards to new homeowners, and he was able to get the list for free. He would go to the courthouse annex and get a list of all the new homeowners every single month, and he mailed out postcards to them. He got so much business that he had to stop sending the postcards for 2 months. And this contractor expects to do over $500,000 in sales this year. That's the only form of advertising that this contractor did. Education is key with this product. There's no way that a customer is going to spend thousands of dollars with you on this product without having a knowledge and a comfort level with it. Fortunately, the marketing material, the pictorial magazine, the sales DVD, the brochure does most of the work for you, so use them. And I've said it already, a show green is a must. You cannot effectively sell this product without a show green. All right, let's talk about how to sell the greens. And this is where you go out and give a design consultation or an estimate. You want to make sure that the husband and wife are going to be home. What's that saying? Happy wife, happy life? I can guarantee you there's no way that a husband's going to spend thousands of dollars on this product without keeping his wife involved. You want the wife to be there, and the first thing you want to do is stick a pictorial magazine in her hand so she can see the many different landscape options she can have around her husband's green. You need to be organized. You need to have at least 2 100-foot-long garden hoses. You need a can of spray paint, and you also need some cups and flags. You want to spend some time getting to know this customer. When you pull up and meet them for the first time, you want to tell them about your business. Tell them how long you've been in business, the number of employees that you have, the other products and services that you offer that you could upsell them on. And you want to ask them questions. As you're asking questions, you're always probing for information that's going to help you to close a sale. You want to ask them, do they play a lot of golf? Do they practice a lot? Are they a member of a golf association or play in a golf league? If they are, once you install a green for them, get that directory and call those customers using that person as a reference. Ask them if they entertain a lot. And one question that you want to ask that's going to be very important in helping you to close the sale is you want to ask that person, what do you want this green to do for you more so than anything else? Okay, what you're trying to do here is build a relationship. You're not wanting to sell one green. What you're wanting to do is build a long-term customer. As you walk around the property, there's going to be 2 places that you want to avoid. One is going to be right next to the house, and then 2, the second one is going to be a low spot in the yard. If the customer is chipping to the green and the green is right against the house, that customer will spend more time replacing windows than they will practicing. However, if putting is their primary goal, then right up against the house is fine. The other place you want to avoid is going to be a low spot. A low spot in a yard is going to collect and pool water and erode the crushed stone base. You do want an area, however, that is accessible from other areas of the yard when you're chipping to the green. Take one of your garden hoses and lay it out in the size and the shape that the customer wants. Be sure to think in widths of 12 and lengths of 5 feet. What you're trying to do here is you're trying to maximize your turf and minimize your waste for the customer. You want to make sure you keep your customer involved as much as possible. You want to ask for their input, ask for their ideas, have them physically handle the garden hose and helping to come up with the size and the shape of the green. The more involved they are, the more excited they're going to become, and the more they're going to want that green in their backyard. One of the biggest complaints that we get at AllPro is a customer will order a green, get it installed, and decide that it's too small for their backyard. They'll call into us and try to order more product. The problem with that is because we're the manufacturer, we go through what's called dye lots, or the color of the yarn, about every 2 weeks. So you could have 2 pieces of